and a warm welcome to today's webinar on the topic, The Future of AI in Game Localization, hosted by us at Gridley. My name is Anna Albinsson, and I am the CEO of Gridley, and I am your webinar host of today. I'm very happy to welcome you to this panel discussion on this super interesting topic of the future of AI in game localization. Let's introduce our amazing speakers. So first off is Dennis Ivanov from Belka Games, an expert within game localization and integrating AI, and a specialist in scaling workflows. He also brings a special perspective with his unique global experience. Secondly, we have Mike King from Kong Studios with over 20 years of gaming localization experience, ranging from AAAs to startup, and his current focus on applying AI and automation in localization pipelines. He will definitely have great insights on today's topic. And finally, we have Tucker Mills from the Bards Guild, a localization expert with more than 15 years of experience in delivering games for worldwide audiences. He specializes in modern localization workflows and assisted translations, and brings an important perspective on building player-focused pipelines that balance both quality, speed, and cost. So a very experienced panel within this field. What is holding teams back today from using AI more within translations? When we asked the audience, we could see that it had a lot to do with quality, but there might also be, of course, challenges with other things like technical integrations or trusts or maybe something else. But let's discuss a little bit on what might hold teams back. What do you think, Mike?
A lot of teams, the information that's accessible to so-called supporting departments, such as QA and localizations, are usually very limited within the company. Not only the information, but also the supports, right? So a lot of times you don't have enough resources to either fully execute the AI. And a lot of times what you are given are very limited to just put the text into the ChatGPT or whatever is the tool that's available to you, run it, result is not good enough, and that kind of stops you there. And then you end up going with big companies with more the translation memories, and then end up not really trusting the quality of AI. I think with the proper support will be the biggest holdback from the company and collaborations. Once you actually collaborate with the whole design teams and engineering teams and localizations teams to work together, and then be able to contextualize a whole novel into the engine, things actually get much easier. Quality comes out much better. And I believe someone mentioned that how do we convince upper management to use AI? I personally think the job of managers of the localization is to translate the localization industry to executives so they understand what localization is. So it depends on how we actually put it, what kind of case studies that we actually give them, and what kind of reasonings that we actually give them. I usually approach from, as I mentioned, cost and timeline. And that usually is pretty easy enough to convince executive teams to kind of hop on and then help, at least for a short amount of time.
All right. Interesting. Dennis, what's your perspective?
I think it mostly comes down to trust, quality, and hidden costs that are hard to see at the first glance. Yeah, because in the beginning, we all think that, let's switch to AI and we will not spend a lot of money to translating to other localizations. But at the same time, people and companies should understand that if they want to use AI, so their localization managers will be much more busy because of this, and they will spend their time to create prompts, models, to like tweak them, and etc. So, for example, you decided to switch from Portuguese, to switch from translations into Portuguese by human being to AI, and you don't spend like this 10 cents for translation of the word, but at the same time you spend money, more money to hire a proper person and to pay like higher salaries to this person. And yeah, you also need to understand that it's important to build models, handle embeddings, and do fine tunings. You need to know when to use one and when you need to use all of them. You have to create like training data sets, test sets, and validation sets, a lot of stuff. And you spend forever writing proper prompts and then tweaking them again and again 10,000 times to get the right results. And after all that, you still have to plug everything into your CMS or TMS, and this is another challenge. Also, I think studios right now terrified that players want to touch their game if they find out that AI was used there. It's like, like those reels where you are laughing at cute cats, then you suddenly realize it's AI generated content and you immediately swipe away in disgust. So we all know also like what happened with Expedition 33 recently. Yeah, like using AI basically cost them the studio an award. So I feel like it's just going to take time for people to get used to AI content. Maybe if we're just honest enough and open about using AI in production, players will be less upset because we aren't hiding anything. And in turn, studios will be less afraid to use it for what they need. But again, it's still, I think, just need to take more time for people, for the humanity to understand it and to stop hating AI content.
Yeah. What's your take on this, Tucker? What do you think holds teams back when it comes to AI translation today?
Yeah. So on top of what's already been mentioned, I think a big part of it is kind of like your technical integration and your workflow design, right? If you look at one of the first Unity tutorials, they have you go in and create a score tracker, right? So score with like one of those little curly brackets, 0 in the middle, right? And instead of having you set up an actual localizable string, it's hard coded so that as time passes, it's swapping out an English string right directly in the code. So if developers are still doing that, right, that's a workflow problem, and AI is not going to be able to translate that content because it's embedded in the code. So again, these best practices that still haven't been solved or implemented at all developers, especially working in a publisher context, I think that kind of prevents you from successfully deploying your full translation workflow. And then I think a really big concern to call out, especially for larger organizations, is from the legal side. So, not only do we want to take the risk of saying, hey, we're putting AI generated text in front of players, right? But how do we guarantee that the AI translations we're receiving don't contain translations that reference other franchises, right? Because if you look at Chinese source text, sometimes they'll use names. Let's say they use a name for an item that is also in World of Warcraft, right? And then you use AI translation, and then suddenly a game from a different company has something trademarked in another brand. That's, I think, a really big concern for bigger game companies. And so that's where things like glossary management really come into play, where you need to determine your translations beforehand to avoid those legal IP concerns.
Yeah. Seems like there are many different things holding teams back, but I think that we at least are aligned around trust and quality and maybe also some technical integrations there.